How many of you go into work every day to a half-empty tank, or you're working throughout the day and your coolant tank needs to be replenished? Do you think about the coolant you're using, why you're using it, why that was a choice the company you work for made? As an employee, I never thought about this. I'd come in and I would just replenish it as is. I never paid attention to what it was. It just worked. I never thought about the materials I was using, if one coolant was better than the other. Time came where I went on my own and I bought my VF2 SS and I had to buy coolant. So I had to research, look into stuff, and at that time, clear coolant was pretty popular. I don't know why. I found out probably 6 months after using it that I had a lot of issues with it. 632 taps, 440s, constantly were breaking. I would have to bring my coolant concentration up to 14, 15%, and I was still having issues breaking taps. Coolant was evaporating fast. I was changing colors pretty quick. So time came where I needed to make a decision and I needed to change my coolant. So in this episode, we're going to talk about all things coolant, some cleaning, maintaining, and I'll get into why I chose Castrol. I am currently out of coolant. I just went through this barrel this week, so we're going to head out and pick up a new barrel, and we'll come back and talk about everything coolant. So I just got back from picking up a new barrel of coolant. We're gonna pull the tank out from this VF2, clean it. Let's go pull it out. I got my coolant tank pulled out from my VF2. I don't use this machine very often, so this tank gets pretty dirty from sitting for months at a time. A lot of water evaporation. I got this 55-gallon sump cleaner here. This actually has a filter in it. What I typically like to do in my other machines that I run more regularly, I'll try to pump out the coolant and filter it through this system and just pump it back into the machine. I try to do this at least every other month, and once or twice a year I'll pull the tank out, suck everything out and clean it out as good as I can and replenish it with new coolant. So we're gonna pull this cover off here and suck the coolant out. All right, I got my coolant tank all cleaned out. We're gonna put the trays back in where they need to go, and we're gonna put the tank back under the machine, and then we're gonna go set up the coolant barrel and start filling this with new coolant. I have my barrel set up in a utility room or a coolant room. I use one of these inline dial mixers. I have it hard plumbed for water, and then from here I have a couple of valves that run water directly to my machines, and if I need to, so I can turn my coolant on, send coolant mixture there. If I need just water to replenish water, I can do that as well. And then I have individual valves for my machines, so I can fill one up at a time. While my coolant tank is filling up, let's talk about coolant. I have the inline mixer I showed. That's how I mix mine. By the way, I'm looking for a better option. The one I have works, it's not great. So if you have a recommendation, please drop it in the comments. If you don't have the inline system, you can simply just use a bucket. I was always taught to put water in the bucket first and then put the coolant in, mix it up really well, and then pour it in your machine. A few issues you can have with coolant. Foaming is a big one. There's a few things that cause foaming. High levels of tram oil can contribute to it. Cleaners, other chemicals, if you're cleaning out your machine and the coolant mixes with it, you can get foaming. High agitation, splashing. If you have a high concentration, if it's been sitting and you got some water evaporation, level it off with some water, bring it back up to a good mix. Soft water is another one that causes all sorts of issues with a lot of coolants. I had a lot of issues with that prior to me knowing that. When I first was using the clear coolant, I I used soft water and it was terrible. This particular coolant, Castrol MB50, it's not recommended to use deionized water or soft water, obviously. I also highly recommend some sort of system that you can clean it and filter it fast. Shop vac works, but they're usually small. You're sucking it out, dumping it, going back. System like I have, it holds 55 gallons, so you can suck it out. That's got a filter in it. And make sure you use a large enough filter, a higher micron filter than what your coolant has, so you're not taking out the important chemicals in the coolant. You're not filtering that out. It also helps, when you're cleaning out your tank, just suck out all the chips in the bottom. Sometimes them sitting there can cause chemical reaction. Coolant ends up being nasty and gross. Another thing you can do, have your coolant rep come out, test your water, see where it's at. Let them give you some recommendations if you need RO water or something. Maybe your water doesn't have enough hardness in it and it's breaking down the chemicals. Another thing every shop should have is a refractometer. I keep my coolant around 8%. I replenish at about 2 to 3% mix to top everything off. My tank should probably be full now. I'm gonna go make sure it's not overflowing. That's happened a few times. I'll admit that. I've walked away. So something like that, it's nice to have something that warns you it's on. I've turned it on, walked away, got caught up running the machine, come back to a flood. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, turn on notifications below, and we'll see you next time.